Wait, we're taping this show every week?
Yeah.
Holding people to what they said?
I heard people in our circles saying, well, a team from Salt Lake City. Huh? Christian Arango? What? I didn't know Christian Arango played for the Park City Rangers when he was under 7, under 10, and under 12.
I'm into it, and especially just because it's making Doyle frustrated.
Jason Hernandez, former Red Bull teammate of?
Not me.
Hello and welcome to This is MLS. We are going to get you all set for match day 4. And at this point, no team in Major League Soccer has stayed perfect, but this squad certainly is. Calen Carr joining me in the house alongside Taylor Twellman and Sacha Kljestan. How we doing, guys?
Oh, I'm doing good. You two are color coordinated in the studio. Taylor's wearing the free jacket he got from the member guest last week at his country club. Another beautiful day in sunny Southern California. Can't wait to talk MLS with all of you.
Taylor,
you stole your jacket, Sacha.
We catching you before or after a nice round of golf?
Me or Taylor?
Taylor. He's the golf.
I'm in Boston. Get out of here. I'm lucky to even be here. I'm even lucky to see the sunshine right now.
Well, one place where there may not have been sunshine, but there certainly was in terms of goals, was Florida. Inter Miami, a 5-0 thumping over their rival Orlando City. When Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez score braces, it is something that we have to talk about. And something else that we have to talk about is this roster, this group was a little apprehensive about what Suarez would show. Now, granted, was it based on what he had done in the first 2 games? Yes, but then Suarez said, hold on a second. Taylor Twellman, what changed for Miami on match day 3? You were there.
It's kind of cool to be able to talk about Messi and Suarez each scoring 2 goals apiece in one game. Last time they did that was an 8-2 win against Huesca when they were both playing for Barcelona. But what changed for them was, one, Orlando City just flat out was the worst they've been in the last 3 or 4 years. They gave the ball away numerous amount of times. The first goal was sloppy. Third goal was sloppy. You could argue 4 of the 5 goals they gave up, it was just sloppy from Orlando City. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from Inter Miami because Gressel was fantastic, Suarez was clinical, and Messi was Messi. But make no mistake about it, anyone that watched the game, I commentated on the game, you can make an argument that was the worst game Orlando City played in the last 4 years, especially under Oscar Pereira. So, Sacha, when I look at it, yeah, I want to say great. Messi, Suarez, Gressel, the entire team got off to it. As Suarez said after the game, none of us are concerned. But I'm also going to say, hang on a minute, Orlando City played the worst game in 4 years.
It was probably the easiest game Miami will have all season in terms of space and disorganization at the back. I do have to give Miami some credit, though. They changed a little bit. What I noticed on the field was a lot of players and the way that they play with Messi, they always defer to Messi in the final third. They could have an open shot, but they want to lay the ball off to Messi. I didn't see that this game. I saw everybody on the field making the right play.
So hold on, gentlemen. I remember sitting here last week, and both of you guys, when I said Inter Miami above Orlando, what did you say? No way. No way, right? Did that happen? Am I misremembering that? Am I forgetting everything?
Are you talking about 2 games into a season, Calen?
I'm talking about 5-0 against your rival. I think this was much more convincing and, frankly, kind of embarrassing for Orlando to lose this way.
Agreed.
I understand the way that, you can maybe try to write it off. They bounced back with a good performance against Tigres at home, 0-0. But for me, they got bullied. And that's the opposite of what I see this Orlando team do. It's a team with predominantly South American players, South American attitude. But then when you come up against Lionel Messi and Suarez, they were like, all right, the more you build into that, the more this team seemed to respond. You saw Suarez talking, he had smoke for everybody. The backup goalkeeper at halftime, Taylor, I saw you talking, highlighting that. It was just constant, and the way that they kept piling on made me even more confident about this Miami team. Now you start to think about the moves that they're going to make, the additions, Redondo, more coming in, made me feel even better. I know in week 2, but I'm feeling good about my take.
One of those moves, and the move that many people didn't see coming, is right back DeAndre Yedlin, U.S. men's national team, going from Inter Miami, being moved on to FC Cincinnati. Sacha, was it the right move for Miami?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if it's the right move because right now Miami doesn't have a right back on their roster. DeAndre Yedlin was that guy, solid down the right side, domestic player, also a leader in the locker room. So now does Gressel have to play right back, who's coming off a game in midfield where he had 3 assists? I'm not so sure. Maybe Inter Miami has more signings in the pipeline and trying to bring in a right back. But right now, I'm not so sure about this move.
What's interesting about this, Sacha, is I was doing the preseason games, the 2 games in particular that were in Saudi Arabia. And early February, it was told to me that they were looking to move 4 or 5 starting players. And I didn't see it. I saw Gregory maybe or Yedlin. I didn't see both. Now it's Jean Mata as well that was just transferred literally 24 hours after they trade Yedlin to Cincinnati. They've obviously got moves on the books. Sergi Roberto from Barcelona, could he be coming? That's obviously on there. They're now interested in a Paraguayan international, number 10, Matias. Like, it's very interesting how they're going about their business, because in early February, I didn't see them losing 4 or 5 starters. Yet here we are, Kamal Miller, Gregory, Arroyo. It's consistent. Yedlin, it's Joseph Martinez. They have moved on for 5 or 6 bona fide starters within the roster. And here we are, they're already 3 games in. I would be stunned if there's not 2 players on this team the next time all of us are doing a show.
Yeah, only thing I would add to that is just the MLS experience is a big part of success. And if you want to win the ultimate prize, which is MLS Cup, and look no further than Tata Martino's teams with Parkhurst and Laurentowicz alongside Almiron and Joseph Martinez. So I start to worry a little bit about what DeAndre Yedlin and some of that domestic experience might mean, because, look, they've done a good job going out and getting Messi and all his friends, but the balance of that sort of domestic MLS sweat versus international quality and experience is something that I'm going to monitor as we look at these weeks ahead.
What about just a bunch of Barca teammates hanging out, Calen Carr?
I mean, it's not bad.
All right, well, those Barca teammates will be taking on Montreal. Calen Carr, 4 points of a possible 6 so far. Are you buying Montreal's positive start?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to. It's been one of the surprises of the season so far. They have 4 points on the road through 2 matches in difficult places, going to Orlando and then getting the result on the road, 3 points in Dallas. This is a team last year that only had 8 points on the road all season. So they've halved that just in these first 2 match days. So that part is really impressive. Laurent Courtois deserves a ton of respect coming over from Columbus Crew, the champions. Hasn't been able to fully implement, I would say, the full realization of that possession style soccer that I think we will eventually see with his team, but he's been pragmatic, understanding they've been on the road. He's dealing with some injuries. Kokoro, Opoku are out. Vilsaint comes in, gets a goal, and then Joseph Martinez comes in, gets a goal. Great to see him back, looking himself, just with that slashing run in behind. And guess who they have up next going against Inter Miami, his old teammates. A difficult decision. Vilsaint got a goal, Joseph Martinez, but I think you always go with the player who's going against his former team. There's just, Sasha, Taylor, that extra motivation, that added sort of bite from going against one of your former sides. Even if you say everything's cool, you might not celebrate as much. You're desperate to get a goal in that game.
What's going to be interesting to me is Wilfred Nancy coached up every single one of his players at Columbus. Who was coaching MLS Next Pro at Columbus at the same time? And what's very interesting to me in watching Montreal early on in this season is the confidence, take risks, go for it, don't be scared. They've got to outkick their coverage. They don't have a strong roster. But from 1 to 18, from 18 to 25, if the manager's coaching up these players, you can do stuff in Major League Soccer. Will Fernandes prove that? I get it. Cucho, Diego Rossi, Nagbe. There's more quality there than there is in Montreal. But the first 2 games, they've got 4 out of 6 points. I don't think any one of us had that. And I think that's a huge tip of the cap to the manager, because the manager right now is complimenting the players and telling them, go for it, don't be scared. That plays into the hands of Joseph Martinez and others within that roster.
One team that really went for it this weekend was Real Salt Lake, putting up 3 goals over LAFC. Yes, it was in the snow. And we've got the 57th edition of the Rocky Mountain Cup with RSL taking on the Colorado Rapids. Sasha, after what you saw from RSL, why can they be the West Star course this year?
They can be, because they've got a dangerous attack. I really like what I've seen out of Chicho Arango, Diego Luna, new import from England, Matty Crooks. But Andres Gomez is the X factor. So my caveat is, yes, they can be a dark horse in the West, as long as we see consistent attack out of Andres Gomez. Yes, he had 2 goals and an assist in this game, but he has been wildly inconsistent since getting to Salt Lake. Now he's in his full second season with Salt Lake. He has the opportunity to be a big-time winger for this club because you see the mentality that this club has, the mentality that the players have when they play for Pablo Mastroeni. They will always be in every game. They will always put up a fight, and they have a chance if Gomez can stay consistent in the attack.
Yeah, I agree with that, Sacha. The one worry I have, though, is Pablo Ruiz going down with the knee injury. He was hurt last year, similarly with an injury, and that really hurt the trajectory of this season, the way that they were able to distribute the ball, get forward in the attack. So I worry a little bit about that injury specifically long-term, but I do like RSL. They showed that mentality. LAFC, they can say what they want about the weather. Trust me, I would not want to get out there and move around in that, but you could tell by the way this team played, maybe taking on the personality of their manager, Mastroeni, just getting on with it. They ended up doing snowflakes, snow angels on the field. I just thought that put it in the box, push it forward, take what the game is, and they got the job done, ended up with 3 points at home.
Ruiz, unfortunately, out for the season for Real Salt Lake. Colorado Rapids. Also, P.S., this Rocky Mountain Cup, you might as well rename it the Pablo Mastroeni Cup. Like, it must be so personal for him, the fact that he won a MLS Cup with the Colorado Rapids, coached the team to success, and is now over at Real Salt Lake. So we will see how the 57th edition pans out with a Colorado Rapids side, Sacha, that it's looking like a little bit more of the same. They go to Portland, they give up 4 goals, and also getting a 1-1 draw at home against Nashville.
A boneheaded mistake at the end of the game by Jonathan Lewis. How he gets that handball in the box, it was awful. So what Colorado needs to do is they need more of a presence up front, whether that's going to be Navajo or it's going to be Darren Yappy. Somebody has to turn into some type of goal scorer, match winner, because they have good support behind them. Cole Bassett, Mihailovic are very good players, but they are not match winners on their own. They need somebody to step up. I like when Yappy came into the game, set up a beautiful play, a little slip pass to Omir Fernandez that could have made it 2-0. Colorado needs to find a way to be clinical right now as they learn their pressing cues under Chris Armas.
I spoke with Chris Armas recently on Offside on Apple Podcasts. And Sacha, what was very interesting, you know this better than any of us, is that the Red Bull system, the style of play, it kind of breeds this winning mentality. And yet my argument to Chris was, well, how does Colorado have a winning mentality? All of a sudden, you don't just show up and immediately learn how to win. You don't show up and know what it takes to win. And that's why when you bring in, they've had 24 transactions since the end of last season. New players in, old players out, yet right now it looks like they're trying to find an identity. I think the style of play and system should help with that. But if you keep having these boneheaded mistakes at the end of games that lose 2 points at home and you only leave with 1, that's going to all of a sudden become the DNA that, guess what? The old Colorado Rapids are back, and the new ones still haven't found a way to win games.
Let's talk about Toronto FC taking on Charlotte. TFC picking up, Taylor, their first win of the season, 1-0 at New England. How much are things turning around for Toronto?
What's remarkable, guys, this is the first time in Toronto FC history in Major League Soccer they've started a campaign with 2 clean sheets. That in and of itself tells you how this team has changed. Herdman has basically said, hang on a minute. Sean Johnson's going to be our staple. We're going to defend in a shape. We're going to make life very difficult. And then we've got a couple game changers. Insigne with one of the best finishes you'll see all week long. Does it expose the goalkeeper of New England, the back line defending? Sure. But it's still your highest paid player. It's still your best player when all things are said and done. Great finish. But more so, the first time in their MLS history, they've had clean sheets in back-to-back games to kick off a campaign. I think if you told Herdman this in January and February, sign the dotted line, you get 2 clean sheets in the first 2 games, Calen, he's signing that immediately.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is their first road win since 2022. So a lot of firsts in this and trending in the right direction. Herdman, I think, has made this team a really interesting club to watch, especially early on in the season, because you wanted to see how he was going to do, especially with the big players. And I think you hit the nail on the head with Insigne. He came off at halftime. I believe Herdman said something along the lines of he's not a big fan of turf, but he got him to play the first half. You get that special moment of magic. You couldn't pick a dream start for that, to be able to show, hey, buy in, give us what you have. We're going to play to, understand you as a player, you as a personality. He's got Bernadeschi to buy in as well, playing a little bit more defensive in the first half. Then he gets to push more advanced position when Insigne comes off. So if you're trying to get buy-in, they've got some really big points on the road, and that's the first time you can say that in years.
I think we got to give a little bit of credit to general manager Jason Hernandez as well, because going into this offseason, there were a lot of question marks around Insigne and Bernadeschi. Would they come back? Would they buy in? So that meant Jason Hernandez had to wait in the transfer window and is just now getting players in after preseason. Richie Larea, they've added Longstaff from Newcastle, Long, the center back, who has done well pairing with Shane O'Neill. So adding more quality now, I think the team will continue to get better over the coming weeks as they integrate into this team.
Jason Hernandez, former Red Bull teammate of?
Not me. We played together at Chivas USA. But
I just wanted to get Chivas in here.
Oh, there you go. I remember at NYCFC, yeah, but good shout.
All right, good shout. Let's talk about Charlotte. Charlotte filling out that roster, getting 4 points, Calen, of a possible 6. What have you made from them?
Well, look, I think Dean Smith has done a fantastic job so far as just simplifying things, giving them a real structure, giving them an identity, bringing the group together. Last year we saw Latanzio playing with a hybrid center back position with Privet moving forward into the midfield, trying to turn this team into something it wasn't. And now we've seen at least a base, a solid core moving forward. My question for them has been consistently whether they're going to be able to have enough in the attack going forward. Kopetti steps forward. I think he's going to give them something, but then they're also going out into the market with the Israeli international winger who's rumored to come, a young DP, Abada. I think as they start to add those pieces, they still have another senior DP. They have an owner that's willing to spend. They have the fan base. There's something there. I still think there's a little bit more to convince as far as really that top-end talent if they want to compete in a stacked Eastern Conference. But early indications have been a positive start for them.
Toronto taking on Charlotte, kicking things off on Saturday afternoon. Matt Doyle, the armchair analyst, joining us now. Let's get right into it. Some cross-conference showdown with the Philadelphia Union taking on the Seattle Sounders. In our first show, some people, including both of my friends sitting right here, said that the Seattle Sounders are the favorites in the Western Conference. Okay, so heading into Matchday 4, a loss and a draw to start the year, 1 goal in 2 games, and it was a penalty kick from Pedro de la Vega, who is now out for 2 months with a hamstring injury. Doyle, are they still the favorites in the West?
I think they still are, though obviously the margins are smaller than they were a couple of weeks ago. Bear in mind the Sounders have not had the other 2 of their DPs, Albert Rusnak or João Paulo, through the first couple of games. And bear in mind that the Western Conference is still not complete. Like, this is the weaker conference. We are pretty certain of that, especially after what we saw last year. So there is a little bit of wiggle room. But the really concerning part is that game against Austin, that was the type of game that cost them first place in the West last year. They were supposed to have fixed it with the acquisition of De La Vega and then the acquisition of a center forward, Danny Musovski, in MLS free agency. Neither guy really made an impact, but that's the other problem. Jordan Morris on the break, Sounders had their looks in this one. The forwards could not put the ball away. Somebody has to step up and start scoring goals for this team.
The most important part to this, Matt, is you just hit the nail on the head. No João Paulo, no Rusnak. Now De La Vega's in and out. His fitness isn't completely there. But the X factor for the Seattle Sounders, because I'm with you, I still think they're the favorite to win the Western Conference, is whether or not Jordan Morris can score you 15 goals on the year. He scored 11, 12 goals last year. 8 were in the first 6 games. If you're going to be the number 9, if you're going to be the goal scorer, you can't go 5, 6, 7, 8 games without a goal. That can't happen. And so I think this summer, and I've been on the record and I'm going to stay on the record, I think Seattle goes out and finds himself a 9. Because I don't think Jordan Morris is your out-and-out 9. I think he thrives better when he's coming from a wide area coming in. I don't think Rui Diaz is going to be that guy. They can buy out Rui Diaz, and then they can go find themselves another DP number 9. That's why I still think they are the favorite. No Rusnak, no João Paulo, De La Vega, in and out. This doesn't concern me, but the X factor 100% is if Jordan Morris can score you 15-plus goals on the year, because the answer is, as of now, the answer to that is no.
Something that the Seattle Sounders do have that the Philadelphia Union do not is MLS Cups. And it is no secret that that is the Union's goal this year. They're the perennial runners-up, right? You think about the games last year, you know, the third place game in Leagues Cup, runners-up in MLS Cup in 2022, 3 U.S. Open Cup losses. They want this year to be different. Calen, with all these competitions that they have going on, how do they prove to you that this year will be different?
Well, I'd start off by saying that those competitions you mentioned would be the envy of most clubs in MLS to even be there and to
Sure,
lose
but they want to be champions, right?
128th minute from Bale. I mean, they've been so close. But, hey, if you look about the number of competitions they've been in, just look at last night. They drew to Pachuca 0-0 at home, and they asked Andre Blake after the match, do you have enough? Is this team deep enough? Do you have enough pieces that's been invested? And he said, I don't want to say anything to get me in trouble. Let's see. So, of course, sorry, Andre, I'm going to bring it up on camera because I don't think he was wrong in the sense that in this Eastern Conference, in this new MLS, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. Because Cincinnati are adding to their firepower, consistently bringing in free agents, top free agents from around. Miami, we don't even have to tell you that story. Columbus is continuing an arms race in the East. I worry a little bit about this Philly team if they have that depth because Julian Carranza's missing. You no longer have that goal scorer up front. That depth, especially in the front line, is an issue. I do think that McGlynn, and Quinn Sullivan have both been big young players that are emerged. So Philly's always going to bring forward in that pipeline, but haven't done enough maybe outside to put them right at that conversation to be bringing home silverware again.
Out west, LAFC taking on Sporting Kansas City. LAFC, Taylor, losing 3-0 to Real Salt Lake. Is it just a one-off in the snow, or is it a sign of something bigger for LAFC?
Is there a both option?
There's no option C,
listen,
which you asked for last week, and we don't have a both option this week.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I don't. I really don't. And my biggest concern for LAFC, and has been for about 9 months now, is every single time something goes awry, there's an excuse. There's an excuse about the schedule. There's an excuse about the depth. There's an excuse about the weather. Listen, this team is as talented as any team. Now, they're younger. They're 100% not as deep as the team was in 22, and quite honestly, even as 23, I think there may be a little bit better when they're all fully fit and healthy, that their 11's better this year than last. But every single time something goes awry, there's an excuse. And now all of a sudden that becomes part of your DNA. They lost 3 finals last year. They wanted to win 5 trophies. They didn't win any of them. Yes, on one hand, you got to the finals. I get that. But how many times are we talking about LAFC and we've got to give an answer to an excuse from top to bottom, front office, now all the way down to a player talking about and complaining about the system? The reality is this: should the game have been played? I think there's a good argument no. But the other team played, you didn't. So now LAFC can look in the mirror, they can look at themselves, and then they can finally say, everyone else in the Western Conference is looking at LAFC and say, if it goes a little awry, we already got you beat, because in between your ears, your team is already up against it. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I do think it's a one-off, but I also think there's a real DNA thing here with LAFC, Steve Cherundolo, John Thornton, everybody else. Always an excuse when something goes awry.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, think of what MLS is. Oh, Houston, it's too hot. Oh, New England, I'm playing on turf. Yankee Stadium, the pitch is too small for us to play our football. Whatever it is, that's a part of it. The other thing, Taylor, it's not like Real Salt Lake's players are from Salt Lake. They've got Andres Gomez, Cucho, Arango. Like, these are Colombian players playing in the same climate, the same environment.
Calen, 100%. I heard people in our circles saying, well, a team from Salt Lake City. Huh? Christian Arango? What? I didn't know Christian Arango played for the Park City Rangers when he was under 7, under 10, and under 12. Like, what are we talking about here? This league is as eclectic, as diverse as anyone. Just because you train in Salt Lake City doesn't mean you can deal with 3 inches of snow. Good on Pablo. good on that team, but more so, keep an eye on LAFC, because now all of a sudden there's this, I don't know, or this didn't go our way. That's not how you win trophies in this league.
If there's one thing Pablo Mastroeni coach teams have is the mentality, right? That we've seen them do things year after year and make waves. Let's talk about the opposition versus LAFC, and that is Sporting Kansas City. And if you can't tell already on the show, we are keeping receipts. So let's take a listen to this.
Have their guns now, and they have to use them at home going against a Philly team that has put a ton into Champions Cup right now. These matches at home are the type you have to win right now if you're Vermees. You have to circle this one early on and say, we have to take this opportunity at home to get off on the right foot.
SKC, 2 draws to start the season. Yes, most recently it was a controversial ending. So Calen, not following your call to action and cashing in at home, how concerned should people be about a slow start for Peter Vermees' side?
Wait, we're taping this show every week
and
holding people to what they said?
And you're coming in every single week.
Doyle, you told me before that I shouldn't be concerned if it wasn't. So you helped me out of this one.
I think they should be pissed, but not concerned. I don't think there's any panic button that needs to be hit in Sporting KC because they were the better team against Philadelphia Union. And they should be angry at themselves for not making it 2-0 and putting the game away when they were essentially playing the Union JV team. That said, Sporting Kansas City, this group, have built up enough equity with me, and Peter Vermees in particular has built up enough equity with me as a manager for me to have confidence in them to find the right switch and to flip it and to start turning those performances into points. We saw it last year. And I think we'll see it again this year. But I think they'll spend this week being angry. And I think that'll be good for them because they didn't play angry last week. They played safe down the stretch. And that is part of what came back to bite them.
I'm going to use that in life. I'm pissed,
Hang on a minute.
concerned.
Hang on a minute. Hang on, guys. Hang on. They've got 4 points if the right call was made. Just.
But should they have put themselves in that position on a corner?
No, Taylor, I agree with you completely.
The missed throwing call is the only reason why we're sitting here talking about 2 points versus 4 points.
Absolutely fair. Absolutely fair. So I think anger, in part because of the call, but in part because it should never have come to that. Those were the Union B-teamers out there. They had dead legs, and over the final 10, 15 minutes of the match, Sporting Kansas City didn't find it in themselves to put it away. So there is plenty of anger this week. And again, I think that's what Sporting Kansas City need. And I think probably over the next couple weeks, we're going to see them round into the type of shape they were in the second half of the season and into the playoffs.
A team where maybe there's a little bit more flares going up could be Orlando City, who's taking on Minnesota United this weekend. Taylor, Orlando, 1 point, no goals through 2 games. What's wrong with the Lions?
Oh boy, how long do we have? Because this
day.
is as concerning as any game that I've seen. Because Oscar Pereira has taken this team to the playoffs 4 straight years. He's won an Open Cup trophy. He's changed the mentality of this franchise to now all of a sudden go into 2024 and have high aspirations. We're talking CONCACAF Champions Cup. We're talking Supporter Shield and ultimately MLS Cup. And they had the worst performance they've had since he's been manager of that team. The way they gave the ball away, the way they looked like a deer in headlights. This was the same Orlando City team that frustrated Messi in Leagues Cup. Messi should have been red carded in that game, if you guys all recall. They were under his skin. They got after him. Soft penalty call. That changed the game. They were the best team to play Messi and Miami on the field last year. And this year, they laid an egg. They laid an egg. One of the worst performances I've ever seen. I think there's real concern about this team in 2 areas. First and foremost, now all of a sudden that there's expectations, do they know how to handle that? I don't know if they do. But 2, more importantly, Duncan McGuire last year scored 13 goals. They go out and sign a DP without having moved Duncan McGuire, no matter what you hear publicly. That's the fact. Muriel was already signed before they had moved McGuire. Now they've got 2 center forwards, 2 distinctly different center forwards. They now got Ojeda, Ladero, 2 different 10s that don't play the same way. Now they jeopardize the tactics. Post-game, Oscar Pereira, I saw him. He was very concerned because they didn't look like the Orlando City team last year that looked like they had turned the corner and they were ready to win the Supporter Shield win CONCACAF Champions Cup, and have a say in MLS Cup. They played well against Tigres. That's a positive sign. But they played well against Tigres, 0-0. They haven't scored a goal yet, if I recall, correct? So, this is a team that can score goals. They have enough firepower to. Facundo Torres and company, they look frustrated. I think it's real concerning for Orlando City last weekend. I really do.
TT, I think you're absolutely correct to focus on, I think, the chemistry issue. I think that is first and foremost, and maybe the confidence issue, because that is something that Orlando City had down the stretch last year. I'm just going to focus on the tactics. Orlando City last year didn't become what they became until they were able to get their fullbacks up into the attack. And this is a theme tactically throughout Oscar Pereira's career as a head coach. His teams don't attack up the middle. They attack out wide, usually with overlaps and overloads in those spots. And they weren't able to do that until the second half of the season. They haven't been able to do that at all through the first few weeks because they're not getting on the ball enough and they're not playing clean enough through central midfield. So the rhythm is off, and when the rhythm is off, you can't get your fullbacks up, and you can't get your fullbacks up, then you're not going to create chances for whichever of the center forwards are out there. So it's all kind of snowballing. It's a number of things happening all at once.
You know who you two are going to make very happy?
To your point, though, think about it, Matt. To your point, Cartagena and Ojeda had the same amount of touches in front of Janssen.
Yeah.
Their center back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tactics, that's a chemistry. That is a real concerning sign. When your number 10 is taking the ball off of your center back and then giving it away, and then all of a sudden the other team's got Messi, Suarez, Gressel, and company, that's how you lose 5-0.
You two are going to be making some Orlando City fans on Twitter very happy. You were hot on them last week, and they didn't like it. They didn't like it. It freaked them out a little bit. All right, let's talk a little bit about their opponent in Minnesota United. Brand new head coach announced last week, a former assistant at Manchester United, Eric Ramsey, the youngest in Major League Soccer at 32 years old. Unlikely to coach this weekend. That could be changing by next week. Calen, how does Eric Ramsey level up Minnesota United?
Well, hearing these two guys talk about going against Orlando and them being bad with the ball might give me some hope with the way that this Minnesota team had been playing. We saw them go out against a Columbus Crew team and press them. And that's not something we've seen teams do against Columbus because it hasn't worked, and we've not seen Minnesota do this at all. They've been much more of a, sit back, give the ball to Reynoso. And the fact that they've been able to have this success fighting back against Columbus, and to get the draw there, and just good results overall without a full-time manager, without Ramsey in, without his imprints at all even on this team, is really promising. There's also no Bangakule Plangwane, who's not into the team. The question I have is, can you press with Teemu Pukki? Can you press with a Reynoso? Can you press with a Robin Ludd? It doesn't seem to me like these are the players that I would pick for that system. But then again, I didn't think you could do that with Benteke, Mateusz Klich, and DC are doing a pretty good job of that. So far it's been really interesting, but I would say TBD as far as what this new manager does.
Let's talk about Atlanta United and the New England Revolution, a team that both squads having a ton of expectations around them this year. Taylor, Atlanta United, an opening week loss to the Columbus Crew and then a bye week this past weekend. How concerned, or should I say how much pressure is there on Atlanta United now?
I don't know, because obviously you're losing to the MLS Cup champions at home. Were they great? No. Were they really bad? No. I don't think there's pressure on them. I just think there's a line of expectation that this team needs to be different. Now, ask me that question after the home game against New England. I think they've got to be better at home. I know Matt, I know Calen, and everyone else that watches this league week in and week out knows home field advantage has to return to Atlanta United. They've got to own Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They've got to own that building the way Tata Martino, Joseph Martinez, Miguel Almiron in those early stages of Atlanta United owned it. If they do that, then I think they're going to have something to say. I still have high expectations for this team. I think Giacomakis could be ultimately the Golden Boot winner, but I think they've got to own home field. So I think as this season progresses, that's where I think the pressure builds. But going into this one, New England's got a CONCACAF Champions Cup game Wednesday night. They know they've got short rest. I would be stunned if Atlanta United's not on the front foot. But last time I said that, it turned out to be a 3-3 game with Carlosio scoring a tying goal with his right foot in the 94th minute. I'd be stunned if Atlanta United doesn't dominate this game this weekend.
You're so right to mention the home field advantage, because the last time Atlanta United won a playoff series was 2019 when they went on to the Eastern Conference Championship, and they had that home field advantage throughout the postseason. We haven't seen them do it since.
Yeah, and that's why the expectations are going to be there. You're absolutely right, Taylor, to say that that is the word for Atlanta United this season. And part of it is having Thiago Almada and Georgios Giacomakis. But part of it is also, it feels like a complete roster that has been put together thoughtfully in a way that we frankly haven't seen from Atlanta United since about 2019. The pieces they went out and got last summer, Saba Labjanica and Jean De Silva and Tristan Muyumba in midfield, they all fit perfectly. And from what we saw in that first game, they weren't great against Columbus. The new additions, Bartosz Ślisz and Gregerson, the center back, but they also looked the part. They look like Ślisz looks like a number 6 to me who should allow Muyumba to hunt the ball a little more in midfield. And Gregerson looked a like-for-like replacement with Miles Robinson. So I'm not concerned. I think that any pressure they're feeling this week is probably healthy pressure because the pieces are in place for this team to be really good. And it's been a long time since we have said that about Atlanta United.
And this is year 4 for Gonzalo Pineda. It is year 1 for Caleb Porter at New England. Calen, 2 losses to start the season for New England. What are your thoughts on New England going up against Atlanta?
Well, I think these guys are right to point to Atlanta at home as the large favorites in this one, and they've had a bye too as well. So they've got rest, they've got time and energy to get those guys clicking, and it's been the exact opposite for New England Revolution. These guys have not been able to catch their breath, and I'd say they have a number 9 problem, but they don't actually even have a number 9 available for CONCACAF Champions Cup right now. That's how bad it's gotten. Frioni, we saw the documented red card that missed a match in league play, but he also picked up 2 yellow cards in CONCACAF Champions Cup. Bobby Wood is nursing an injury. So they are beyond shallow at that 9 position. Caleb Porter has come out and said he believes in Frioni and he's going to push him. He doesn't have another choice. Shankalaya is playing up top nearly every minute of every game. He's not a natural number 9. He's a great finisher, but he prefers to face forward towards goal, driving at the heart of back lines. So big questions for me as far as that number 9. Their 1 goal of the season in league play has come from a miracle from Carlosio, who I wouldn't put it against him, playing against Almada as a number 10 to maybe have, a moment of magic, but that number 9 position has been a big problem for New England.
Atlanta United going up against the New England Revolution, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, only right here on the MLS Season Pass. We are bringing out the big numbers for this one. Well, we aren't. Matt Doyle is the armchair analyst, and if you ever pay attention here on the set, except for right now, this guy has no laptop, no notebook. No, he has too much information in there right now. It's all up here. So this is a little by the numbers. Are you guys buying or selling it? Matt Doyle, let's start with the New York Red Bulls taking on FC Dallas. The New York Red Bulls have a newcomer, don't they?
Yeah, Swedish newcomer, not the one you think. Our number is 3.61. That is the number of passes. Center back Noah Ayla is completing above his expected number. That's according to our friends at American Soccer Analysis. To me, this kid has changed the way the Red Bulls can play. And we've seen a lot of that over the first 2 weeks, but especially in Matchday 2 in that win down in Houston.
I'm buying that. Big time. I'm going to jump right in before Sacha takes this one as the Red Bull guy. But the reason I'm doing it is because, one, he looks like a Red Bull center back because he's 6'5", but then with the ball at his feet, it totally changes the picture and really the prognosis of what I think this team can be. I did their match last week in Houston, and on paper, it looked just like basically a smash and grab on the road, traditional Red Bull win where they take 2 turnovers and high pressing moments and they turn into goals. But when you actually look at the match, Noah Ayla was so good with the ball in possession, allowing progressive passes, getting them in the attack. Then you unlock Forsberg, his Swedish buddy, who I saw walking around the hotel together. So nice sort of teamwork already connecting on the pitch. And that really changes the way this team can play, not to mention you have Lewis Morgan as well, who came in. And so suddenly so much was on Tolkien. Goals, assists, set pieces, personality. Now they start to have pieces to build out of the back, get him more advanced positions, and take some of the pressure off him as far as getting goals in the attack.
You buying that, Sacha?
I'm buying. Better players equal better teams. Let's go.
Lots of money around here. Can we get an instant replay, by the way, of how quickly Doyle shut you down for shutting his laptop? He's got
Do not do it.
he's got all the big numbers in there. FC Dallas, we've seen a formation change from Nico Estevez through 2 weeks. Doyle, is it the right move?
It's the right move, but the number says there's something to be worried about. Our number is 19. That's the number of successful progressive carries we have seen as a team from FC Dallas through 2 weeks. The team that they're trying to imitate, Columbus Crew, with that 3-4-2-1, they have 34 progressive carries. And what we see in the difference in these two teams is the ability of Columbus to change, to switch the field of play and get those wingbacks into 1v1 situations. Dallas are not going to get there unless they fix this ASAP.
Buying?
I'm selling. I think Dallas is going to be good. They need to get their best players on the field, though. When I think of Pomykal in midfield, he's a player who can carry the ball. Ferreira up front, he's a player that can carry the ball. And I think Paul Arriola's best position might be as the right wing back, which will put him in better positions to succeed in carrying the ball down that right wing as well.
Yeah, I'm selling too. I think once they get Ferreira maybe in a different position, a step deeper, he can get on the ball more. I agree. I like to see all the pieces before I make that choice.
Let's talk about Nashville SC taking on the LA Galaxy at Judas Park this weekend. It has been a tough start for Nashville SC. Sam Surridge, Hani Mukhtar both injured, but Hani Mukhtar could be making his return, and nobody will be happier than Tyler Boyd, you tell me, Matt Doyle.
Yeah, our number for this one is 7.2. That was his total expected assists last year for the LA Galaxy as per Opta. That was in the 80th percentile among all wingers in MLS, and that is borderline elite. And what I am trying to sell you guys here is that Tyler Boyd actually is the right third option for this team. We just have not seen it yet because Hani and Sam Surridge have been injured. But as soon as those guys get back, I think it's all going to click for Nashville.
I'll buy that, but more as a decoy. I don't think he's going to hit those numbers of the 7 expected assists. I think it's really more in this Nashville system of having Schaffelberg and maybe now this balance of Boyd on that right-hand flank, but more to be a diversion, to create space for Hani. But I think he's got everything he needs. The one-man show, wrecking crew, going counterattack. So I think it's really about getting Hani back because we've seen, frankly, without him, this Nashville attack looks toothless right now.
Big time buy for me. I think Tyler Boyd was a great signing to this Nashville team. Disagree with Calen a little bit. I think he'll get more goals and assists than you believe.
The LA Galaxy gave up a league-worst 67 goals last year. It's looked a little bit different this year. Doyle, how much better is this Galaxy backline looking?
About 30% better per shot allowed. The number that we're going to use for this one is 0.073. That is the expected goals per shot that the Galaxy are allowing this year. Compared to last year, that number was 0.104. So almost a 50% increase in shot value last year. What the Galaxy have done through 2 games, they look like a completely different team. And I don't think it's all personnel. I think it's structure. And I think that structure is going to lead to them being at least an average team defensively this year. After 2 weeks, I am absolutely convinced.
I'm convinced as well. I'm buying. I don't know if it's purely on the structure. I got to give a little credit to Miki Yamane, the new Japanese right back, who has just been solid. He's been a very good defender. He partners well with Maya Yoshida. His positioning is very good, tactically very smart, and he's solid with the ball.
I'll buy as well, but not for the back line. I'm not giving any credit in that sense. I'm going with the attack. And when you have to worry about Painso, when you have to worry about Ricky Puig and eventually Peck, I think that threat on the counter is really what's pushing them on the front foot, getting them in better spots. Last year, it seemed like they had to get 2 or 3 goals just to get a point. This year, they've only conceded 1 goal in 2 matches in each of their matches. That's been enough to get them points so far, so I feel good about them.
FC Cincinnati taking on DC United. Manager Pat Noonan said ahead of the season, this team will go as far as Lucho Acosta and Aaron Bupenza will take us. How far have they taken them so far, Doyle?
I mean, they're getting the results that they want for the most part so far, but I'm seeing some red flags, and our number is 35.6. That's the success percentage for take-ons for FC Cincinnati this year, 1v1s. Second worst in the league so far, and I know it's very, very early, but it's kind of tracking with what I'm seeing from Lucho Acosta in particular. He has seemed to lack the burst through 2 games. Now, maybe part of that was Davy Flores, and on first kick, he was awesome for Toronto FC. But even this past weekend against Chicago, I didn't see it from Lucho. And given the work rate he's had over the past couple of years and how central he is to everything Cincinnati do, I'm actually starting to get a little bit worried about this team.
The reigning MVP.
I'm selling on that one. I'm not going to go against Lucho. I do think he misses his buddy Barreal, but I think this team in general I'm buying on. They continue to go out. We spoke earlier about DeAndre Yedlin and his absence, what he might bring. You can see what Cincinnati values, that experience, that ability of guys that have been there and done that. I think that system, that platform puts Lucho in better spots to win balls higher up the field. That's where you've seen him find success in the past. So one-on-one, Lucho Acosta, I'm always buying that.
Yeah, I'm selling what Doyle's spitting out as well, and I'm buying on Lucho Acosta. Good players on FC Cincinnati. They're a good team. They'll be fine.
You two are just teaming up against Doyle, aren't you? DC United, a nice little surprise to start the year. 5 goals through 2 games. Doyle, where does this attack rank in MLS?
Well, our number is 6.5. That's their total expected goals through those 2 games. That's best in the league by a mile. Only one other team is over 5, and that's RSL, who have played 3 games. And nobody else is even approaching DC United. I can't even get myself to believe that this is actually a top 10 attack in the league, let alone top 1. So I'm selling this from I think they'll be improved, but I am selling this amount of year-over-year improvement.
I'm selling as well. I don't believe that this is going to be a top attack in Major League Soccer. And we got to remember 65 minutes against New England for DC United was against 10 men when they end up scoring 3 goals. Yeah,
I'm selling, and it's because I have my own homework, Doyle. I did that first match with DC. Their expected goals were 5 in that one against New England. So you've kind of skewed the numbers.
You don't have to hold up. You don't have to hold up that notebook.
Yeah, always keep your notes on deck. This guy's keeping his computer out, so I gotta bring what I got.
All right, you guys are killing my buzz. You're not saying no more Benteke hat tricks?
I mean,
come on.
They don't even need one. They got it without him. Yeah.
All right. Austin taking on St. Louis. Austin, 1 goal so far this season. They've got a draw and a loss. Now, granted, they did get a result in Seattle. No Sebastian Giroud yet. Should fans be concerned about Austin's offense?
So our number is 11. That's a total number of shots that this team's generated over 2 games. 2 of them were in that scoreless draw at Seattle. 9 of them were in the first game where they were chasing a result, playing from behind. I just think this team's broken. Driussi's going to come back and they'll get better, but I don't think he's going to fix what is wrong with this team. None of it is working as far as I can see.
I'll buy it. I think they have 3 of those shots are on target as well, so you're not going to get goals if you're not putting it on frame.
Sacha, you buying that Austin's broken?
Easiest buy of my life, Phil.
He's going shopping. All right, well, one team that is generating goals is St. Louis City. 2-0 win over New York City FC. What'd you see in that one?
Our number is plus 1.6. That's the expected goal over performance from St. Louis City through 2 games this year, which is actually ahead of the pace that they hit last year, which was ridiculous. It was like the highest expected goal over performance in the American Soccer Analysis database history, which goes back a dozen seasons. And they're outperforming it through 2 games. It's crazy to think that they're doing again. I feel like they have to regress, but I've been saying that for a year now.
Yeah, it's starting to seem disrespectful, but yet it's our question. They overperforming, Sacha?
I'm selling that. I like this St. Louis team. I like the style of play, and I think they have good players all over the field. When I think about Leuven, Aziel Jackson really coming on in the attack now. I love the way he turns and faces the defense and asks questions of the defense. And Sam Adeniran just looks like a bowling ball that cannot be stopped when he joins the attack.
Yeah, I'm selling it too, just because how long can you overperform XG before you start to get some credit? I mean, they're
breaking the model. They're just
consistently
doing
it. And same thing goes with the shots. You mentioned Adeniran. The way you're not supposed to shoot that. That's like not a good decision, but it hits the back of the net. That if you do that time and time again, you put yourself in good spots. I'm into it, and especially just because it's making Doyle frustrated.
This came back to bite me last year because we always said, no, St. Louis City's not going to win the West. They're not going to set this record. So then when we had to fill out our end of the year playoff brackets, I said, you know what, I'm tired of counting St. Louis out. I'm going to put them all the way, and then we all know how that ended.
I wouldn't go that far, but I got them beating their XG.
Took it a little too far.
Continuing to do that.
Finally, San Jose, taking on Vancouver. The rumor mill is flying that LAFC legend Carlos Vela could be getting signed by the San Jose Earthquakes. Doyle, Should they sign Vela?
Our number is 75. That's the percentile that Vela was in last year as a chance creator, primarily as a winger, but also as a false nine. In San Jose, they lost their number 10 from last year, Jamiro Montero. They did not re-sign him. They have a DP slot open. They were 13th as a team in expected assists last year. Through 2 games, they have dropped down to 21st. I don't think anybody who has watched them play has been particularly impressed by them. You would think that Vela would be a fit, but I don't really see it because they need a true number 10 for San Jose. Vela's never been that. He's always been a right winger or a false nine, and more to the point, he's only ever been happy in San Sebastian or LA. He's not a San Jose type of guy. He's also 35 years old, so he doesn't really fit the timeline for this team. I don't think it would be a great signing for them.
Calen, you're a Northern California guy. You look disrespected.
I was going to say, first of all, I'm selling this Bay Area slander. You've lived in Berkeley, man. What's up with that?
You buying Carlos Vela if you're San Jose?
I'm not, but it's only just because of what I think the price tag would be as a designated player coming into this team. And I think that position could be used in a different way. And I think ultimately, I'm thinking if I'm Vela, I'm using this more as a bargaining chip to go back to LAFC. I think he's a guy that could fit in, maybe not at that cap number, but to take a team from, continuing to fight for trophies in LA, where I think he wants to be. Whether I convince him on the Bay Area, I'm sorry, I don't think I can do it in San Jose, but I see him staying in LA, if anything.
If I'm San Jose, I'm going after Vela hard. More so just for it gives them relevance. He will bring people into the stadium. He will score world-class goals. He will set up assists. He's not going to make the Earthquakes a contender. He's not going to even make them maybe a playoff team in the West, but at least they would be relevant for the first time in a long time. And I don't want to see Vela go there. I think it would be weird to see Vela in anything but an LAFC jersey. But if I'm the Earthquakes, I would go after Vela.
Isn't that what they did with Matias Almeida, where they're going with the big money, Liga MX legend, but it wasn't sustainable, and that's the other part for me, where you might be relevant for another season. You might get a couple more tickets, but I don't know, man.
You bring him for one season for some excitement up in NorCal.
I think
so what Sacha's saying
plan.
is his expectations for the San Jose Earthquakes are not super high. The Vancouver Whitecaps already knocked out of CONCACAF Champions Cup. Vanni Sartini now in his 3rd full season. Doyle, what are you thinking about the Whitecaps?
Our number is 1. That's the number of open DP slots they have right now. And until and unless they fill that slot with another high upside, high ceiling attacker, I just don't think that they're a team that can compete for the biggest trophies in MLS. That include, look, they've already been eliminated from CONCACAF Champions Cup. We saw what LAFC did to them in the playoffs last year. Canadian Championship, that's still on the table because they're a good team. They won't be great until they fill that final DP slot.
I thought I couldn't agree more or buy more when you talked about Austin, but this is spot on, Matt. Totally agree with you. There is a ceiling to this Vancouver Whitecaps team right now without another high-level attacker on the field.
Yeah,
you buying?
I'm buying with these guys. I'm sticking.
You're buying the Whitecaps?
Yeah, they've beaten me down enough. I have to agree with them.
All right. Well, that does it on our first By the Numbers with Matt Doyle. My head is spinning, Doyle. I don't know how you do it, but you're amazing, my friend.
It's all the computer. Does all the work. It's AI.
It's all up here. It's time for a rematch. MLS announced Monday the 2024 MLS All-Star Game presented by Target will see the MLS All-Stars going up against Liga MX once again. The game will be held July 24th at Lower.com Field in Columbus. Tickets go on sale this Friday at 10 p.m. And that is where Columbus will be hosting the Chicago Fire this weekend. The Fire have not qualified for the postseason since 2017. They're off to a rough start, 1 point from a possible 6, Sacha. How do you convince me that the Fire keep this from being another rebuilding year?
Not sure I can, Jill. I'm not sure I can. You mentioned it. They haven't made the playoffs since 2017, and somehow the sporting department that's been in charge of this team for the last 4 years just got signed to new contracts again in the offseason. It's mind-boggling to me. What Frank Klopas has to do is find a formation that works with the players that he has. Hugo Kuipers, they spent money to bring him in. He needs service. Brian Gutierrez is the player to provide that service. It's been seen over and over again. Xherdan Shaqiri is not the guy. Kellen Acosta, as much as he is a very good center midfield player in Major League Soccer, he is not the guy. They are not the players that are going to lead this team. I saw them play against Cincinnati last week, sitting deep in a 3-5-2, 5 defenders. The lines were so big between midfield and attack. They weren't able to defend Cincinnati. I have worries about this team, and Frank Klopas needs to find a formation and stick to it that works for this squad.
The biggest concern I have, Sacha, it feels like square pegs and round holes a little bit. I think Gutierrez is fantastic as the third or fourth complementing guy. Shaqiri hasn't been the 10 that they desperately need. I think if they got themselves a chance creator, someone that is that, then all of a sudden the other pieces look like it. But you just hit the nail on the head. In order to have consistency, you've got to be consistent. And I hope Frank Klopas understands that this team may need just a metronome in saying, this is how we're going to play. This is the way we're going to go about it. We can't change so drastically from on the road at home. And we've got to be a little bit more aggressive, I think, when we're at home. But I'm not sure the entire complexion of this attack fits together the way they hoped and the way they spent money. I still think they're one piece away.
No, I cannot. They're more than one piece away, Taylor. They need a metronome, they need a playmaker, they need a backup left back, because apparently when Andrew Gutman, who's a nice player, but when Andrew Gutman gets hurt, your whole plan goes up in smoke. That's insane heading into the season. But the real culprit for the Chicago Fire, since Georg Heitz got there 4 years ago, that sporting department GM, has been the DPs. They have not delivered on any level. I know Xherdan Shaqiri got himself a goal off the penalty the other day. That was his only shot. He did not register a shot from open play. He did not create a chance for any of his teammates. He touched the ball once in the penalty area, so he's not even being dangerous off the ball. He only hit 4 passes into the attacking third, so he's not even facilitating other guys in the attack. That's one DP. The other DP is Kuipers, the new number 9. In 192 minutes on the field this year, he has 1 shot. This is a team that is broken in how they are constructed. They have been for most of the past decade. There does not look to be any change with that. And I don't think anybody here could convince you otherwise, Jillian, given what we've seen over the past 5 years.
1 shot for Kuipers. What's your reaction to that, Taylor? Sorry, Sacha, I'll come to you in a sec.
I don't have one, Sacha. Go ahead.
The one X factor that I would going to say is that Chicago might have is Chris Mueller. If he can come back from injury and find some form, he's one player who can beat players off the dribble and make the dominoes start to fall, so to speak. When you can beat people off the dribble, you can create chances. Chris Mueller has shown when he's healthy, he's able to score goals and get assists in Major League Soccer.
Let's talk a little bit about Portland now, going up against New York City FC. The Portland Timbers are in advanced talks to sign forward from CF Monterrey in Liga MX. Berterame, a reported $15 million. That would be tied for the 3rd highest in MLS history. Atlanta United owning all 3 of those spots with Thiago Almada, Penny Martinez, and Ezequiel Barco. Doyle, $15 million. Is Berterame worth it?
I don't think so. And I think there are 2 ways to look at it. The glass half full way is that he's 25. He has been a consistent goal scorer in Liga MX, and we know that goal scoring in Liga MX tends to translate pretty well to MLS. And if he comes here and he's happy and he buys in, can he be here 6, 7, 8 years? If he can, then yeah, he's probably worth $15 million. But that's I just stacked a lot of ifs. Here's the fact. He's played 10,000 minutes in Liga MX. He has 46 goals and 12 assists. Compare that to Raul Ruiz-Diaz. He played 5,300 minutes in Liga MX. He had 38 goals and 4 assists. So on a per-minute basis, Ruiz-Diaz much, much better than Berterame. And then you compare it to what's happening right now with CF Monterrey. Brandon Vazquez has come in and taken Berterame's job. I love Brandon Vazquez. Do you think he's a $15 million striker? Do you think Raul Ruiz-Diaz is a $15 million striker? So no, I don't think that this is going to live up to that price. I would be surprised if he lived up to that number.
Sacha, what do you think?
I wonder. $15 million is a lot of money. There's no doubt about it. But if Berterame can come in and show what he showed in Leagues Cup and get goals for Portland, doesn't really matter how much you spent on him if he can lead this team back to the playoffs, back to the top of the Western Conference. He's obviously a very talented player. I also think this might be a little bit of desperation from Portland now that the season is going on and now that we're getting closer and closer to the end of the window. Monterrey is able to say, yeah, he's $15 million. If you want him, you got to pay the big bucks.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because they need a 9, and I've said it, and I really believe this, that if they get the 9 right, they're a really good team. They've got a real good diversity to their attack. They've got experience, MLS experience. They've got Phil Neville, who's got a chip on his shoulder to prove himself. If they get the 9 right, first off, it's not my money, right? So if Merritt Paulson wants to go out and splash Major League Soccer all over Mexico, go take someone for $15 million, I'm all for it. But it is only 40 some odd goals in 10,000 minutes. That, I'm a numbers guy. Always have been, always will be for a 9. But that's where I disagree with you, Matt. I think Rui Diaz now in 2024, he's close to 15 million. I think the numbers that are going out right now for center forwards and for attacking players around the world is 30 to 40% over the number that it should be. But that's the reality of the business. Quite honestly, Berterame's probably worth 11 to 12 million, but you're desperate. Vasquez has been good. They say you want him, go ahead. Now it's 15 million. You follow where I'm going. I think it works because I think he's going to suit the system, but he's never played on turf. That's what he's going to regularly play on. And I just love the fact Portland's going for it. We need more owners to say, this is what we need. Let's go for it. I'm fine with it.
So let me ask you about that system, because that's where I'm a little bit confused. Berterame, certainly with Monterrey, has been better up top in a 2. And the way Portland is constructed, it looks to me like they're playing more of a 4-2-3-1, and I think that's what Phil Neville probably preferred during his days with the England women's national team and then with Inter Miami. So maybe this heralds a formational change? I'm not sure about that.
Well, that
depends on who's playing 10.
Yeah, well, that remains a big question if they can get Evander healthy and bought in. But again, we're all stacking ifs with this team right now, aren't we?
Well, if they would go on to win an MLS Cup, we know it'd be worth every $15 million of Merritt Paulson's dollars. That does it for This is MLS. Enjoy Matchday 4, and we'll see you next week.